When it comes to modern guitar players, Julian Lage is, in my opinion, and again this is totally subjective, but in my opinion is one of the most unique, creative, and expressive, and technically impressive guitarists that we have out there to listen to. And I know that a lot of you agree with me because a lot of my previous videos on Julian's playing and kind of methodology have been fairly well received. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about 4 things that I love about Julian Lage. He's currently on tour. He's doing a solo guitar tour where it's literally just him on stage playing an acoustic guitar. I am incredibly jealous of everyone who lives in Europe and the UK where these shows are happening. I'm so jealous that I cannot attend, but someone on his team has been filming and posting a ton of videos from these concerts, and it's really given kind of a beautiful insight into how frickin' incredible this guy really is. Because as great as electric guitars and playing in a trio is, I think that with certain styles of music, if you can do all of that and still captivate attention with just an acoustic guitar, that is a huge, huge testament to the quality of your playing and your ideas, and that's something that Julian is clearly quite comfortable in. So throughout this video, as I'm bringing up these points, I'm going to be bringing in clips from his auditorium performance that's been on YouTube for the last little while. And I just want to talk about some of the things that I noticed watching these and listening to these. And I'll link it down in the description if you want to check it out. I highly recommend it. It is 8.5 minutes of absolutely ridiculously beautiful guitar playing. The first kind of thing that I wanted to bring up that I've always appreciated about Julian's playing is his dynamic range. He's kind of a king of having everything kind of come out so that it's not necessarily screaming in your face. He's really only bringing out the loud bits that he wants to be loud, and he's not afraid to go super, super quiet. I remember I watched in an interview where he was talking about kind of this compression thing that happens, particularly with the acoustic guitar, but also with the electric guitar as well. And he's such a master of taking things from, say, he was playing super light. Again, that's me trying to mimic a little bit of what he's doing, playing a different tune altogether. But here's an example of Julian employing these beautiful dynamics. And what I want you to try and maybe listen to is how much kind of volume variety there is in the notes he's playing. Even though he's playing a lot of chord shapes with kind of connected things that most guitarists might be tempted to play really, really loud, he strikes this balance to make it feel like he's kind of telling us this beautiful story. So the second thing I wanted to talk about in how he's doing this is his constant attention to, where I think he's probably spent so much time practicing and thinking about this that it just happens automatically. It's pretty related to dynamics, and that's his touch on the instrument. This is one of the things that I think separates an amazing professional guitarist from a really good intermediate guitarist, is this constant awareness of the quality of sound that they're getting. It's really, really beautiful to watch how Julian interacts with the instrument. There's never any tension. He's moving flexibly around it, doing whatever he wants to do. But it's kind of anytime I see Julian play, and I've seen him live multiple times, and I also check out every YouTube video I can that comes out with him playing in it because it's just so beautiful. But one thing that I think he's really got down to a science is how to use notes on the guitar for expression. So say for example I was playing the F here on the 6th fret of my B string. There are so many different ways that I can play this note. I can play it really soft. I can play it really loud. I can play it really short and really loud. I can play it somewhere in between. And the thing that strikes me about Julian's playing, again, this ties into the previous point about his dynamic range, but it's just so gorgeous to me how much color he's able to bring out of notes. I think sometimes intermediate guitarists think of the guitar, they think of notes first, whereas whenever I see Julian play or listen to him play or see YouTube videos of him playing, which I guess is both, seeing him play and listening to him play, I'm always blown away by how everything that he does just kind of sounds right. And I think a lot of it has to do with his touch on the instrument. So to illustrate kind of the effect that touch can have on what you're doing, here's me playing the intro melody to this tune. I'm just going to play it plain, and I'm going to play it how an intermediate guitarist learning this might play it. And while there's nothing wrong with that, Julian always manages to balance things and have different things kind of pop out the notes that he wants to sound a little bit more expressive. It's almost like what I just played is two-dimensional, and then when someone like Julian's playing it and taking this attention to touch and how they're touching and interacting with the instrument, it becomes kind of 3D. So here's maybe a more expressive way of playing it. That's something that Julian is a master of doing. Where there's those subtle balances in volume, you can hear, hopefully, through this mic setup, you can hear sometimes there's a little bit more grit on it, and sometimes I'm playing super soft and letting the note bloom, and it's just a really beautiful thing that Julian's an absolute master of. The third thing that I wanted to talk about is Julian's absolute fluidity on the guitar. And this comes from a combination of multiple things. Here's a quick little snippet of that auditorium performance so you can get a feel for what I'm talking about. So obviously, this comes from having a complete and pretty much utter mastery of the guitar. Julian is clearly so comfortable playing all of these shapes. He knows where all the notes are on the fingerboard, and he's developed and cultivated a personal relationship with all the material, which is something that I think we should all be striving to do. But on top of that, not only is it that he's playing these beautiful notes that he knows where to get and what effect they will have, but one of the things that I love watching Julian play is, again, he's like a river flowing peacefully through a valley, you know? He's not fixed, he's not tense to the guitar. He has complete kind of motion around the guitar. He's moving with it and around it, not against it, which I think is huge. And the other thing that is super apparent to me is just how light and deliberate all of his touch is with his left hand. He's super, super deliberate, he's super, super accurate, and he's never using more energy than he needs to, and that's helping him navigate these crazy runs quickly, efficiently, and most importantly, musically. So that kind of fluidity is a huge thing that I love about Julian Lage. And now the last and final kind of thing that I want to talk about today is the breadth of ideas and influences he's able to assimilate into his playing. Julian Lage, while many of us would think of him as a jazz guitarist, and I personally would agree with that as well, I think he's also, first and foremost, an improvising guitarist who loves all kinds of music. He has bluegrass records with the great Chris Eldridge. He has some beautiful kind of contemporary classical music, if you like that fun oxymoron. But he has tons of recordings, and he clearly loves all kinds of music, and you can really see all of the influence of that. There's kind of two main things that I want to get into with this, which is where a lot of his playing follows a kind of jazzy, modern jazz vocabulary, where he's playing modern lines, and then he'll switch to something that sounds more like a bluegrass melody. Then he'll switch to something that sounds classical. There was something he did in the middle there where he did this... something like that, where he's got this cool pedal point kind of thing moving around. And then he'll go from that into this huge, open chord, or not open chord, but block chord kind of. It sounds like bluegrass, but he's using jazz harmonies, and it's cool. And then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that sometimes in this video, I was struck by this multiple times, and I always love it in his playing. There tends to be this thought amongst jazz guitarists that once you get into jazz, you know, you need fancy chords, you need all this crazy stuff. And Julian is such a master at blending, I think, not only of this performance. For example, in this performance, he's playing a lot of... I'd have to go back and transcribe it to play it accurately. But he's playing some kind of jazzy voicings, a lot of ninths, a lot of sixths and sevenths kind of in there. And then there's a bunch of beautiful moments where he goes and he just strums a big open G chord. Or for a D, because the song's in the key of D, he'll hit this, just a traditional shape that we've all probably been playing for years. And it's this really, really beautiful kind of mix, I would say, of things that are, you know, legit jazzer chords, while also having these kind of traditional, you know, thick block chords or bar chords that we as guitarists are, of course, very familiar with. And I think he just does a beautiful way of, again, not overcomplicating everything when it doesn't need to be overcomplicated. And he's talked in an interview before about viewing it sometimes as a bit of like a palate cleanse, where, you know, we go from these crazy jazz voice, or not crazy jazz voicings, but more complex or theoretically advanced kind of chords, while also throwing in some beautiful, simple, thick triads on the guitar that are obviously such a fundamental sound of what we come to expect out of instruments like this. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I'd really appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. It really helps me out more than you could know. If you want to take a guitar lesson with me, there's a link to get in touch with me down in the description. I'd love to work with you on whatever's troubling you on the guitar. If you want to support me in the free educational content that I put out here, you can subscribe to my Patreon down below. All of my patrons get early access to videos, as well as cool behind-the-scenes sneak peeks at stuff that I'm working on, as well as downloads for all the diagrams that sometimes show up in my videos, so I'd love to see you over there. Another great way to support me in the channel is to check out my store down below, where I sell various ebooks and courses. If you're looking to get some more educational content from me, that's a lot more in-depth than I can go into in these 10 to 15 minute YouTube videos. And last but not least, I've got new videos coming out every single week, so I hope I'll see you in the next one. And until I do, I'll wish you a wonderful day, and I hope you have some fun playing the guitar. Thanks.